Well, I did it. I switched back to a MacBook Pro. Of course I did. I always go back to Apple. I always come back to the MacBook Pro. And I have so many more reasons this time because I was a Windows boy for like 3 or 4 months. But then I got a little taste of that MacBook Pro and I'm like, I'm switching. I'm switching back. I'm Scott with Techno Eclipse. Don't forget to check out the Patreon link and the podcast link down below, along with all of my other social links. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. That's pretty much it. And also the affiliate links so my little dog, who's around here somewhere, and my cat can eat. And if they don't get clicked on and nobody purchases through them, they're not eaten. Not really. But why do I always go back to a MacBook Pro? Why do I always come back? Well, it's the same reason I always go back to Windows, because I can't decide. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. No. But I have a list here of all my stupid reasons for going back to a MacBook Pro. No, but I think there are valid reasons here and why I always eventually go back to a MacBook Pro. But then there's also reasons why I switch from a MacBook Pro. But I think this might be one of the last times I ever switch. Although I'm sure I will in like another video. I'll buy a computer for like $8 and then it'll be like an i9 9900K, an RTX 2080 Ti. And I'm like, well, I might as well just switch. It was $8. So to start, and I think this is something that nobody ever really brings up with MacBook Pros, is the power delivery. So when you look at a MacBook Pro compared to like an XPS or even a Razer Blade, you can see that the power delivery is way better when on battery on a MacBook Pro. The Geekbench scores and all tests will pretty much be the exact same whether a MacBook Pro is on power or if it's on battery, interestingly enough. Although when you look at an XPS 15 or Razer Blade, you can see that the actual performance dips when it's just on battery. Understandably so, this might be why Apple takes so long to update some of their chips, although maybe too long sometimes, but I think I kind of understand why Apple does take so long, because this is probably one of the main reasons they got to make sure that they can deliver the power when people ask for the power. Something that probably not a lot of people talk about is that. Also along those lines is just the way the computer is actually allowed to use all of its resources. I had a Dell XPS 15 9570. That is last year's version of, well, 2017's version of the Dell XPS lineup. It has an i7 7700HQ. I ran a bunch of benchmarks on it, and all of my benchmarks were coming up super low. For example, on Geekbench with a 7700HQ on the multi-core side, I was getting around 7200, and then on the single core side, I was getting like 21 and then like 18. Like these are scores of like Xeon chips from like the original Mac Pro from like 2006. Those are extremely low, and something I was like, what the hell is going on? I looked into it and I was like, this is just an issue with Dell XPS laptops and kind of Windows laptops in general. Their power delivery is really questionable, and if it's not the power delivery, it's the way that Intel or the manufacturer chooses to let the chips run cold compared to Apple so that they, last a little bit longer and the performance is a little bit worse. But if I'm paying for a laptop that has these specs, I'm expecting to get these specs. And I normally complain about that with Apple, but on their laptops, they literally let those chips hit about 100 degrees when the Dell XPS 15 that I played on did not allow the CPU to really even get a chance to get going because it kept throttling the crap out of it. I was able to disable something in the BIOS in order to make it run a little bit better, but most people aren't going to know to do that because most people are like, I just need a computer that's good, that's fast, that works well, and they see that their Dell XPS 15 is not working well, and they're like, this thing's crap, and I'm going to get a MacBook Pro. That's what I think ends up happening. So that's an interesting thing that not a lot of people cover, but I thought I would. Next is the trackpad. I've talked about this a billion times. The external trackpad, I love the trackpad. It works really well with every single app, even like Premiere Pro, it works really well with. I love it. Although it's not a necessity, I do enjoy it. Next is Thunderbolt 2, Thunderbolt 1, the mini DisplayPort protocol. On a lot of other Windows laptops and even Windows computers, you don't really get a mini DisplayPort anywhere on the computer. Pretty much no graphics cards in the last 5 years have had that unless it was made specifically for Apple, or if it was like this really weird card that I saw had like 3 of them on it. Doesn't really matter. It's a really weird thing to have like Thunderbolt 2 and Thunderbolt 1 on a computer, but the MacBook lineup does have those ports, which allows for really cool accessories such as the Thunderbolt display sitting behind me, also Thunderbolt enabled music devices, Thunderbolt enabled storage devices, and all kinds of different Thunderbolt enabled devices. You can get those for much cheaper now because those are no longer worth nearly as much as they used to be worth, because the new protocol is Thunderbolt 3, which is being put into most every single laptop, and those are in the USB Type-C form factor instead of the main DisplayPort form factor. So interestingly enough, you're actually kind of gaining stuff while also, taking a few steps down in terms of actual performance. But for most people, they're not going to really notice it. And again, you get access to really cool older devices that Apple did design for these MacBook Pros, such as the Cinema display sitting right back there, Thunderbolt display sitting right back there. Next, I sort of already touched on this, but optimization. When you look at the Geekbench scores, and this you have to take with a huge grain of salt, because Geekbench really was developed to actually be a mobile platform-based benchmarking system, but it has morphed into a computer-based benchmarking system as well. While it's not necessarily the best gauge of performance of all time, you can use it to sort of judge just how powerful your system is. It's a pretty good judge of it. The more powerful system, the better the Geekbench score is. But what I've noticed is macOS historically, and on every single time I've ever tested this, whether it's on a Hackintosh or a MacBook Pro, on a MacBook Pro or on any Mac-enabled device, the Geekbench scores are much higher. I think that's due to the optimization of the actual super light software and operating system that is on that computer. So macOS is a lot easier to run than Windows. Does that make macOS better in every case? Not necessarily, but it does make it better if you just have a little bit older machine that really can't be pushed too hard because you want to be able to use all of its resources for the tasks that you're trying to do, such as myself using a 2012 MacBook Pro, the Retina version, to edit videos. It's really good. It's actually more powerful on the Geekbench multi-core side than the 7700 HQ inside of the XPS. Now, does that mean it's actually more powerful? Probably not, but it does show the optimization of macOS. Next, I'm going to talk about render times. I use my computer to edit videos. I also do a few other things, but any computer could do those other things that I run on them. I don't game, so really my biggest thing is just being able to render videos and render videos relatively quickly. My videos are not planned out super far in advance. I think about them about a day or two in advance. I film them, edit them, and by the time I'm editing them, if I like what it looks like, it normally goes up. So my plan is not to have a computer sit and render a video for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. I'm run and gun. It's just me editing these videos. I mean, we're growing bigger every day, but we're not the biggest channel on the planet. We're not Mr. Tech Tips over there with his 87-person staff. So I need a computer that can render video quickly. That's why I bought an i5 8600K. It was within my budget, and I thought 6 cores. It's not hyper-threaded, but it does have a lot of performance, really fast. It's just a good processor. I was able to overclock it to like 4.2 gigahertz, and I was like, whatever, that's fine. And that CPU exports the video slower than the 2012 Retina MacBook Pro by about 50%. Now, when you think about that, is that crazy to think? Yes, it absolutely is. That is the pretty much equivalent to an i5 9600K. They're pretty much the same processor, honestly. And when you look at the actual performance differences between an 8600K versus an i7 3820QM, it's not even close. One has 2 more cores, although 2 less threads. But when you look at the single core performance, it's got a way higher turbo boost. It's got a way higher clock speed. It's got way better cooling. And it still exports the video in double the time that it takes my MacBook Pro to render out the video and export it and encode it. That's ridiculous when you think about just how well optimized Premiere Pro is for macOS when you compare it to Windows. This isn't necessarily this is a more powerful computer, because it's not. It's a less powerful computer than a computer with an i5 8600K, 16 gigs of RAM, bunch of storage, and a Vega 56. But it is more powerful when you have better optimization, and that's exactly what happens when you are using a MacBook or any Mac computer with the Adobe suite of apps. Premiere Pro is really well optimized for a MacBook Pro, and it's not really well optimized for any other Windows computer, even though probably Windows is their biggest market, although I hate Adobe for many other reasons, but I guess that's one that's okay. So that's my list. Those are all things, and I haven't even signed into iCloud to use iCloud Drive, iMessage, any of the great features that macOS comes with. I wanted to do it without doing that because, of course, it's better with that. But I wanted to see just using it as a computer and did nothing else, just to edit my movies and videos that I make, an overall content creation machine. How does it work? And it works super well, better than my Windows computer did. I know I'm shocked. I might have to double check those render times, but I'm fairly confident that those are correct because I edit the videos and I know exactly what I'm doing. And it's ridiculous because I can tell the actual smoothness of the operating system and how it's working just by using so many computers in my day. So what do you guys think? Is a MacBook Pro worth switching to? In my case, it was. I'm trying to minimize the things that I have. I'm not becoming a minimalist, but I am interested in the idea of having less stuff, having things that you really need, but not having way too much that it doesn't make any sense. And 8600K is way too much for me. A MacBook Pro 2012 Retina is about what I need right now. Maybe in the future I want a more powerful computer, and maybe I'll upgrade to a 2013, 2014, or 2015, or maybe a 2016 or 2017 or 2018, but I can't really suggest those due to the keyboard issues. So probably I'm going to be stuck on this computer until Apple releases an update or lets you know that you can get your keyboards replaced for like 4 or 5 years on those MacBook Pros, although I doubt they'll do that. So I came up with something funny, and this was sort of a comment in one of my last videos, but I made it a little bit better. So MacBook Pros are so annoying. I always go back to them. Well, you know what they are? They're like an abusive relationship with a girl who is really, really good at you-know-whatting you. And she's so good at doing that it doesn't really matter if she hits you, if she's mean to you, if she's a bully to you, because at the end of the day, no matter what, you always end up going back to her because it's just the best thing ever. I don't know if that's super accurate, but Apple does screw over its customers consistently. I've talked about it. I'll continue to talk about it. Are they the worst company on the planet? No, absolutely not. They made a lot of great computers and a lot of great devices. They made a computer from 2012 as powerful as it needs to be in 2019 with their updates and constant updates to their operating system. So what do you guys think? Was I dumb? No, I wasn't. I bought this computer for essentially like $300. I bought that whole setup for $600. If you don't find a deal like that, maybe it might not be worth it to you, but for me it was, and my computer that I had built is worth more than $600. I figured I'm just gonna get rid of that and use this, my new favorite computer. Plus I like having the portability. So thanks again for watching. I'm Scott with Techno Eclipse. If you like the video, you know what to do. If you don't like the video, just hit like and subscribe still. Like, you don't have to watch any other videos, but I need my numbers to be bigger so I can show off to the 10-year-olds that I'm so cool and popular. No, I'm just joking, but thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.